Dola Binji Sanji Drupara Shu Sanji Shu Nan Soji Punamda Sanjo Bado Dani Yazo She Daji Tsu. Dola Binji Sanji Drupara Shu Sanji Shu Nan Soji Punamda Sanjo Bado Dani Yazo. Aye Jinzo Jebe Sonam Je Dola Binji Sanji Drupara Shu Sanjo Juba Nam Cheje Sisi Kanchen Tindru. China的门店经叫做多数问的说现在很多时候咱们生活功能大约没给上讨论的这种，这位预备特别这把也甚至新出了做过OK in English.
In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. By the virtuous merit that I create by practicing giving and other perfections, I attain Buddhahood for all sentient beings.
Yeah. Oh, you can do it about teddy bear. I don't know. Oh. Works. Okay. So as you can see here, online people can see there's no electricity at my house at the moment. So I do have on my computer only 37% of battery. So let's hope the electricity comes before the juice runs away. Okay. Lasso. Yeah. I have this. Okay. Yep. That is on the D 56. I think we are on 56. Oh, lasso tan rokan aji ji jomde nyomong aji jemai. Aji jende on minro. Tedang aji tawang jurus. 56, please.
Whoever has self-importance is destroyed by it, is disturbed and has no self-confidence. For those with self-confidence do not succumb to the power of the enemy, whereas the former are under the sway of the enemy of self-importance.
Okay. Okay. Tadigi subject ya dana nyombe ngaje le meba sich tadigi tanda jeshede nyombe ngaje le ya ene takyon khariyo sich ko bi gyon tombe tone chil di gyon dups di lanjare mi torjare do se dire do nyombe meba sich do di chiklana.
So if we sort of start by looking at the sort of textual outline as presented here in Gyaltsab Dharma Rinpoche's commentary, the current outline is the looking at afflicted pride in a kind of disparaging way, or looking down on afflicted pride, or disparaging afflicted pride as it's translated in the text we have. So this is sort of looking at looking at what the faults of afflicted pride are, and sort of seeing through the fact that it's faulty and has seeing what kinds of faults it has, and looking through to see that, then we understand that it's not something that is to be taken up in our practice, but indeed something to be discarded.
How before going through Shantideva's text, because we need to be very brave enough to accept that we do have this strong pride and this negative pride. So I will be the first one to raise my hand. So can you follow me? Normally, our practice is something like when in the text it says, oh, this negative emotion, this, then you just feel like, yes. But to accept this, so then it's a big challenge. So we really need to recognize when this negative emotion, when it is explained in the text, so it is more talking about you. It is about you. It's not talking about the general knowledge. It is more like, this is Rajan, your story in this book. So then you feel like very close, and then you can raise your hand with it. It's like a volunteer, not like somebody force you. A sign that you cannot, even we raised our hand and said, yes, I accept. But when normally, if your enemy tells you that you are a bad person, then at the moment, or maybe few minutes later, do you have any space in your brain to digest that? What I meant by digesting, it is more like that bad is not like inherently existing in me, but how he tells me bad or I'm wrong, that means something from my part, there is something negative in there. So that first I wanted to recognize. And for that part, I am so grateful that one ordinary person sees this, but I cannot see. So for that reason, in the text it says, enemy is your teacher. Could be one reason like this. Not only just it gives us a patience, but it not only also he is a kind of reminder. If Buddha tells you you have a negative emotion, you will accept. You are wrong, you accept. Your guru tells you, you will accept. Even your friend, good friend tells you, you accept. But the strongest, when there's kind of fight, then you cannot accept it. So that is why I'm saying being brave enough. So what means this kind of brave is that we are so familiar with this, what is written in here, and it's not talking about somebody's feeling, it is talking about you, and you can accept that. So now let's read it. Oh, that here is a very good point. Kind of a great pride. It's not a great pride. Normally, people have a pride. You show it like, I'm important. Who said something? Okay. I think my ego talk. So in here, the great pride, it is amazing, because there in Shantideva's way of describing the great pride means it should it should be like you are holding a weapon, and then you can face the enemy. Normally, our pride and our kind of anger, how it protects us, is without anything that you can, without armor, and you are going into the war. Here, Bodhisattva's way of pride is having armor that that negative emotion of your will not harm your own feelings or your way of living. And then plus that it will not also harm others. See, it's good. It's good. Where is it? Okay. Okay. Works like this. Hopefully, how long it stays. Okay, lights back. Okay. Oh, okay. This is how. Okay. Now here we go. Okay. And Shantideva here will repeatedly it said great pride, that what do we have, we think that I so important. It feels like we say center of the earth is you, and somebody, what makes others important is if it makes you and yours important, then it's important. And here Shantideva is trying to say, maybe we can read a little bit in English.
Yeah.
This part.
In
English. Yeah.
So this is the commentary to Gyaltsab Dhamma Rinpoche's commentary to the 56th verse, and it reads, any migrator that is destroyed and overcome by the pride, that is a puffed up mind, is controlled by the afflictions, and is not a person possessing great pride. Those possessing pride are suitable not to fall under the control of the enemy, but the migrators with the puffed up mind fall under the control of the enemy of the affliction of pride.
So here it says the pride we have is harmful because it is controlled by the self-grasping or the negative emotions. Control is not the word.
Under its power is
powered
under the
by.
power of something else.
It's powered by.
It's under the sway
Empowered.
of something.
Empowered.
Empowered is
Empowered.
No, it means like to be under the sway of.
Under the sway of, under the control.
Empowerment.
Under the control. Okay. Okay. So
Under the sway of.
This is we mostly why we cannot accept that normally the pride what we have is what Shantideva is saying. It is not an antidote. It really harms you because we don't check that the ego or this important, you feel like self-centered attitude. These you cannot make the link. This is controlled, or this can control. This will bring a suffering after this. So that we really need to check. Like people, most of you like to write a diary. Write it down. Like today, I will check the way of Shantideva was explaining, and my way of experience. I will try to what we call it. Try to
Correlate.
correlate.
It means
Correlate.
To evaluate them together. To correlate them.
Correlate that how it is going and what are the benefits, what are the disadvantages. So that will be good. This is something to be we need to see. Here in here says enemy. This enemy is your own enemy. It is not an enemy from the outside. Because remember the word of the great Bodhisattva, saying, if you could eliminate, you can eliminate outside enemy. Because how long are you eliminating?
It's no connection.
Or connection, internet connection.
Yeah, it froze, didn't it?
Okay.
Okay,
It's coming?
it's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Tia,
Yes, there.
Tia, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Okay. So that's so true, isn't it? We try to make friends, we try to make harm to the enemy. That is more always from outside. But you never checked inside that which makes enemy, which makes friend, is way of our own understanding, way of looking. If not, then we can say Buddhists do have an enemy. Yes, Buddhists do have an enemy, but Buddha don't accept them see them as enemy, because they don't need to. So this is beautiful. This is what we want. So it is in order to have this, without the help of the Shantidevas and this special pride of enthusiasm, we cannot be successful. The real thing that now we can take away from this 6th chapter, and from here, sometimes it talks about we have a patience and have a pride, but all this link between our practice and the patience, our understanding, pride, what we want, how the self-grasping controls. Control penadus pegena blamniado. Pegenanda. Jizanga ranzu nyumongi shawang songbegi, nyumongi shawang songsegi, nengade yagu dila yagu ji kwaji chasona. Ranzu nyumongi shawang dugudu, nyumongi shawang jin re se samlo yagu ji kosona. Ani pechen drasya di chini yorse jikche. Ani dinashin nyen se di shibuchiki pe chini samatangde di. Duzu pe nyung rugre samgulus. Karajin se na 아주 다스도 좀 비. 코네버 겐도 유니. 코 겐도 유니 게베 손르마도. 공할 네버 게디. 겐도 유니. 겐도 스테 하고와 겐도 유니 게버레 삼삼지요. 이나야 뇽모메 샤와레세 섬노코소나. 코란 겐도 딜레야디. 코란 그거 투바. 대양로 투베 나로네. 코 로라야. 라와메바. 뇽모메 샤완젠네 도스레죠르셨어. 디인도 잠베 녜게 텔이야 콘로사야 또 닝제고 우세 삼로디 다당아도 우마주관나라 닝지 숨숨베나니 닝지 니바단자 왔다다 차 제장은 땅 안주 가르고 차고도 주주로 초보이네래 도 둠바이네래 달리 다과도 레고 고바나를 레래 디도 잠베 샤완젠 뇽모베 샤완젠 세 텔린지 미주로 또 디버스 영어를 하는
And so this context of talking about being under the sway of mental afflictions is a very important context to bring into this understanding, because and the great sort of, if we really understand both in relation to ourselves, but also in relations to others who interact with us, about how we are all under the sway of the, out of control of ourselves, and under the sway, actually under the control of the mental afflictions, under the sway of the mental afflictions, then for someone who understands that in a way in relation to the external environment, our external sort of environment of the people around us, whether there is indeed someone who acts as an external enemy, or there are those that are seen, you know, in some way sort of close to us. But the strong feelings related to someone as an external enemy, and then someone as being extremely dear and close to us, will to some extent should greatly reduce if we understand that the other person, for instance, if they're someone who is acting as a kind of enemy, who is engaging in harm in relation to us, but if we understand and trying to sort of overcome us, to defeat us and to harm us, and if we understand that that person is kind of in a kind of mistaken condition, that they're not in control of themselves, they're under the control of the mental afflictions, then there's then we should immediately understand that we should never resort to anger. There's no need for anger in this situation, that it should only be a sense of compassion that arises in us. And in the Chandrakirti's entering the middle way, in the early verses of Chandrakirti's entering the middle way, in the first chapter, there's a description of three different aspects or kinds of compassion. And this would be perhaps correlate with the second kind of compassion mentioned there, which is the compassion, which literally means to focus on phenomena, the compassion focused on phenomena. And what we need, you know, the main thing that we need to understand here is that sense in which has been brought up in the 6th chapter of Shantideva already. It's occurring here in the 7th chapter, and definitely will be discussed further in the 9th chapter, is this sense of how ourselves, not only other people are external to us, but also ourselves are under we're not in our own control. We're not in control of ourselves. We're under the sway and carried away by the mental affliction. So this is the kind of key point that needs to be understood here.
Subject.
Yes. So disparaging or looking down on the afflicted pride. That's the outline of the text at this point.
This is the one part of practice, I think. If you see some kind of the downfall, and especially in here, when you see some kind of some kind of a or something wrong with our pride. And then you need, sometimes you have to shout it out. Even you are in your room, you recognize it. It's like you see some kind of you are watching a television, and then you see something very exciting, and then you just, without any control, you just say it loud. People go like, what happened to you? So this kind of really kind of a outburst should be needed. Not like, oh, I see. Oh, it's very bad. Yes, very good. No reaction. So here we need this reaction very strongly. While you're doing practice, it's more like you have to recognize it, and then, like, if you're really strong enough, and you hold your tiny enemy like from the neck, like this, you have to do this. So it's saying that Meba now looking down on this, because up to now I got tricked by you, and I know that how it really you got me into the problem. So these are all the things that what you normally, when you meet your so-called friend who cheated you for a long time, and you say this. So they are same thing that Shantideva is teaching us to do this. Okay, so now the next, so this ordinary, this pride, afflicted pride. Tadi ma kandistudusina 57 to 58 redo nyomong ngaji ji kengni ngendro ngaji ji teaching mi gadun chombata shengi sense tendang ne lemba medu nyamchungda 탐제 또는 예벌 줄 ngaji ji ken katubje 태양 ngaji jen 또나 member jinja yimba mes 57 and 58 please.
Inflated by the disturbing conception of my self-importance, I should be led by it to the lower realms. It destroys the joyous festival of being human. I shall become a slave, eating the food of others. Stupid, ugly, feeble, and everywhere disrespected, tough people bloated by conceit are also counted among the self-important. Tell me, what is more pathetic than this?
Okay. Nyombe ngaji kyungpane yemi didaya yongdes nyenjur ngaji teaching miri jene yidewal ota dire.
So this section is the faults of that afflicted pride. That's what the text, the outline in the text is. The faults of that afflicted pride.
The 57, the thing about the 57, the verse 57. Nyomong ngaji ji kengnes. Nyomong ngaji ji kengne nyenro ngaji ji teaching. Mi gadun chombada shengi sense tendanis. Now the nyombe ngaji ji kengness. Isn't it difficult to see this afflicted afflicted pride is with us, or right now with us or not? So it looks like kind of sleeping in the corner of somewhere of us, and we are just having a very simple pride. We do have this. We do feel like this. Yeah. My pride is right now quite good. What's the problem with that? We feel that. But it's very tricky. It's very tricky. Once it's with you, whether it's manifest or not, but it's work, just sitting with you, having with you, is to trick you. So this is how we call diluted. What makes delusion makes it very beautiful is you will not recognize you are diluted. So that's why Buddha has to give us a special weapon to see this. It is difficult for us. So, and this pride, and with this delusion, what makes this delusion more stronger is the pride. That I'm not deluded. I know everything. I don't need to respect you. This does not have any limit. This pride can go like as I forwarded you this 7 types of pride. It's amazing. Pride, maybe you have a friend who does not have the knowledge like you have, and then you can say, yeah, I'm better than you. Well, this could be something, the pride that really brings this ego and looking down on them. That's wrong. But just seeing that he doesn't know that, I know this, I need to teach him, that kind of pride is good. But the problem is, he doesn't know, I know better. You see this, how somehow the dirt is there. It's a dirty water. The dirt is down there, but you see only the clear above. But once you shake it like this, the dirt is already there. It's a matter of you shake this or not. So then here in the Tibetan Chögyatagpa explains about a little bit about 7 types of kinds of pride, afflicted prides,
or different kinds of
different kinds of afflicted prides. And then here it says the third one is one of the dangerous. So what is the third one?
Nagil.
So in English, what you say?
In English, a pride upon pride, something like that. It would be literally the pride of pride, but literally pride mounted up upon pride. Super pride.
Yes.
Pride on steroids.
That now listen to the third one, the explanation of the third one. What does that mean? Okay. Even that person is great already. He has more knowledge than you. But when you defeat him for a little bit, you can just touch him for a little bit. Then you go like, I know much better than him. That is there. Maybe like your teacher will act not. Maybe your teacher does not know this. And then a student is saying, I couldn't remember this. I don't know. How do you say that? And the student studied that and he can explain that to teacher. And then you will feel like, and you don't know the knowledge of the teacher, how great he is and how practiced he is so great. But then you can just speak more and can bring a little bit of more information. Then tomorrow when you look at your teacher, you feel like, here goes this teacher whom I helped. This is there. This is the one of the most dangerous. This is the most dangerous. For what? To become like that person. That's it. Here we stop everything. This small, looks like small, but this kind of dirt, this kind of poison stops everything. It's difficult to handle. So we need to, we have, in Tibetan, we have a saying. It's very true, actually. A strong pride, this wrong pride or afflicted pride is so bad because the saying, it says something like this. This rounded pride, it's shaped like a stone. How much you put of water, that does not go in there. So what does that mean? This pride will not let you learn more. So that's the whole story of why the Buddha's, in the life of the Buddha, the story, Devadatta, the role of this as in the story. So much pride. So at the end of everything, right before the Buddha passing away, then he comes to knock on the door of the Buddha. Until that, his pride didn't let him go to the Buddha, to become and follow Buddha. Because he wanted to defeat. Because why he wanted to defeat Buddha? Because he has this special pride, which that not a good special one, the bad special one. This not only Devadatta, but we do have this. So we need to recognize, is it there or not? That's why when we go to the teachings, we do make the prostrations. And the early morning when we do the prostrations, we need to come with, yes, for eons and eons, many times, how much we brought this pride and we didn't get enough knowledge. So this Thundupitita says very clearly in his book. Dün sej duat, dün sejur. Aji jo watan jo. Kem tu ta tiyo je namsan ra ma de. Ni tu yesh tu. Kodiyo. Nishaku sana? Shibjin nishu tsagu ge. Dedu. 로가 이제 저는 무슨 영문가 아제 넘버 든 강롱 쳐봐도 아제래 장 아제지 점싱스.
Kasi.
시기 넘버 10이 되도 다가라.
Yeah, so here in Tutanjugi Drapas, it says, commentary, he says about in this, in the section talking about the sort of disparaging of afflicted pride, his commentary says that whatsoever migrating sentient being based in the kind of false view of the transitory collection or the ego view, and their mind filled with afflicted pride, and then sort of would have one of these 9 kind of aspects or 9 different types of pride, which will and these particularly very particularly the pride of pride heaped upon pride, or the pride of pride, that will destroy our kind of mental continuum and overcome us, overcome us, destroy the positive mental continuum and overcome us. And he particularly singles out the pride of pride in this case. So then it also goes on to speak in greater detail about this from out of the 7 different kinds of pride. It speaks of this pride of pride, or the pride heaped upon pride, and it says so on the
다 아주 저기 등도 피미스라나 두칸에 지고요. 마요마. 마차로. 마침보치차. 다 디기 난로네. 마나로네 마시나 차셔럽디. 때스도 sensitive 슈차이도. 배나 딘데럽지. 초도간로 마도 차위는 디도도. 나도. 딘데 마디레. 대 초도간로 마치 대용도 좀 디간 직내도 때스 툭스나 차로에시도. 어디더브레슬라다.
So it talks about, as an analogy, it talks about when, for instance, if we have a kind of wound, but on that particular kind of wound, there's actually a place or a spot which is even more sensitive or painful. And for instance, when we have in our mouths an ulcer, and even just the kind of touching of the ulcer really kind of sets off the pain. So it's just in that way. Let me not put any deep pain and any
중앙 신도스 시마타바 따라서 시마타바 수도 아직은 아직이고 시마타바 따라
so like that, this pride of pride is so just as in you have the sort of super kind of sensitive or painful kind of area within a particular wound, so this pride is especially is in by this particular pride of pride is
어디디 직체 then one the 100 난다 다 lemba medu nyamchungdang 탐제 돈이 내버려줘 다디서 지고줘 봐.
So then there's the first 2 verses, the first 2 lines of verse 58, where it says, stupid, ugly, feeble, and everywhere disrespected, tough people bloated by conceit. This is the result. This is resulting from this kind of this kind of ripening result out of those kinds of afflicted pride.
So that Shantideva took out some part that people, when they see or they feel, they just like, no, I don't want to become like that. But like, let's remember the Chantikittis, Omalajuga, in their one that the Simti Tangbo, Niba, Sumba, Shiba, Maba, Dinama Pado, Ane Dikarsure, Panjare Sunguba, Panjare, Jimbi Midin Shokaru, Sena, Sena Yung Senatris, Sena Chevaltene, Karium Gursidu, Unco Donian Idar Giel Soba, Idar Giel Soba.
Oh, yeah.
Ota 딘델라 소보 망부 송구이 봐 대다 탐제 다 지게 베나 쉐바 야고 마곤베기 디부델이야 고 도미도 버시지 도미도 버셔야 되라 도 네고 어글리세도 줄줄 있지 말해 디 인주 가르스나 람상 미기 남주 두고 있지도
글쎄요.
남주 베니 게모쇼 람상 코랑 남주를 라면 동바신한 사고 찬다
알아요.
정보를 지고 띵게만 뺀잖아
알아요.
저는 셔바야고 마곤베기 따들 람상 남준 통에 람상코랑 메카시 람상코랑 콩도 사초죠
Yeah, the conseguimos shona ya.
the
Number the symbol.
number 남준 남서 주도도 빌라 도 미도바세 디 게시 중도 도 니버세 지게제디 지보 인사 말이 디 용도 쪽으로 봐 올라서부터 탐지 딱 가릴 때는 용벌을 쓰디 아니 용모를 수술 된 게버스 용모 되기 샤베 레터를 때는 디디부디 중벌이스 라고로 봐 딜라베이나 대다 탐지가 잡아라 가릴리도 쓰도 준비 right
they 탐지기
잡아들 right 다 용모를 낼 때는 중벌 just love cho그래 대략 용모디 퀄리티 겐 게버스도 브라이드 겐 게버 지난 브라이드 겐 게서 love cho고요 봐 어디 다른 번도 단도디
so when we're talking about in these verses where it says things like Dharma ugly, weak, and these sort of results that come from being filled with afflicted pride, as it mentions in verse 57, then we can relate this a little bit into Chandrakirti's text Entering the Middle Way, where in each of the chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in ascending through the chapters, they deal with a different perfection of the perfection of the path. But within each chapter, there are very specific there's very specific things to be refuted and negated, and to be removed. There are various things that need to be eliminated. And so, for instance, you find in the chapter on generosity that the perfection of generosity, that the opposite class of generosity is that of being miserly, and then it discusses the results of the future results, the sort of ripening results of that kind of miserliness being born in sort of realms such as the hungry ghosts and suffering thirst and hunger, that kind of thing. And then, for instance, in the chapter on the perfection of patience, it then discusses how the opposite of patience, which is to fall into anger. And then I think His Holiness said at one point that there's this kind of sense in which one of the ripening results of people who have not practiced patience well and allowed themselves to fall under the sway of anger, they're sort of so they can be born as ugly, as it mentions here, as having an ugly complexion, but also their face, their complexion, or the aspect which they show on their face very quickly, even if it looks like, even if they were sort of trying to laugh, it looks like they're actually kind of sort of almost it almost comes to a form of anger. It almost has this way in which the complexion of the person's face almost changes, even when what would be when they were sort of laughing or showing a more positive face. So there are all these so each of these, so this is sort of categories that are mentioned throughout Chandrakirti's text, and then each of these, where do they come from? Where do these results come from? And then they sort of identify very clearly how each of the different kind of mental afflictions lays down the kind of karmic imprints from which then the corresponding results arise. Normally we would talk about how, so then it's sort of this presentation of how they these unwanted ripening results occur from the cause of mental affliction. But actually, if we really, what is sort of being said here, and if we really look at the situation, what we could say is that the root, almost like the root of those particular forms of mental affliction causing those results also stems out of this kind of afflicted pride. That's what's being said in these verses.
어디지? 다때네 단다 타마숨데 아기 기긴 거둡지 대양 아기 젠도나 멤버 진저 여바 매 세티. 그래서
Yeah.
대숨디 다 구주침부시부지 갈등 것도 슬랍나 아니 남샤견도 지기 랑기 소소랑기 껴는데 원래 맞cep체 껴는데 원래 맞힌 도스 대대비나 아니 원래 맞혀야 돼 가르도스나 그 균진 따제디 제베가를 껴 여대매 계지면 체체 고아 지디 할든데 랍초고 말았어 할든데 껴 체체 공이 거는 조금도 세죠 봐 오딩 아제디기 캠바디기 깬체네 아니 니지게를 견치그레스
가세.
닝지게를 견치그레스
알레요.
닝지게를 견치그레스
니지게라.
견치그레스 따디 간데스 두고도 르바디 간데스 두고도 슬라베나 개정 아제디리 지주 소소를 견메 메망치에 소소를 견메신 잖냐고 띵에 노 메스 견당 알레 유지데 코랑기 딘데 마시나 가딘데 용구 말아왔어 도슬랍디와 고조나도 서 계제 상관도 수수 견데 수수 원래 전식 말아 디 마체나 아니 디스고 캐랑 단다 전주심바 냠낸 진행지 랍지 중고 봐 제가 심진기 쳐도 심기고 요래 심진기 쳐도 닝지 공부 요래스 디 공부 요나 아니 심진 샴바도 지부 지장 차로 그렇잖아 가스 고존 심진 샴바도 지부 지장 차로 그랬어 마이 교면 마이 디디스 심진 두고 마이 교면 마이 디디스 지부 차도
네.
제상 같다 차랑 게문에 교인데 캐렌치 캐랑은 누가 다해 고쪽고 추나 아니 말게 되는 것때네 고쪽고 그것이 들랍제들이도 왔대 아지 진데 그톱지 대양 아지 젠도는 멤버 진도 여보면 스타디
And so then the outline for the text, which contains the last 3 lines of verse 58, where it discusses why it is sort of logically reasonable to abandon this kind of afflicted pride, and reads, Kelsey, do you want to read the last 3 lines of 58 again?
Tough people bloated by conceit are also counted among the self-important. Tell me, what is more pathetic than this?
So this is a kind of advice on how to start engaging with the antidote to afflicted pride. And so for when we're, how it says it is that when we're full up and bloated with this pride, then this is something that we can see in ourselves, that it's very difficult for us to sort of to recognize the faults within ourselves. This pride, if we sort of even to sort of check and look inside to see whether we're at fault in certain ways, is often very uncomfortable for us, and we almost we become almost impenetrable, that we kind of brush everything off, and this being filled with pride is what prevents us from doing that. And what this also actually does is prevent us from becoming it prevents from compassion from arising within inside of us. Now, how does that sound a little bit strange? How does that work? But what we're doing by being sort of, impenetrable to, identifying our own faults is that, and we're saying that, that we don't have any faults within ourselves. When we get into this kind of state of mind, we are, and also we often feel like, oh, it's not my fault at all. If that other person didn't do that, then I wouldn't do this. I'm not like that. It's because the other person did it like this. So we're making ourselves kind of immune to kind of identifying our own faults. But how does that relate to not being able to develop compassion within ourselves? Well, as if we are people who are sort of committed to the practices of the Bodhisattva path, then of course our primary commitment is to sort of compassion and compassion towards other sentient beings and their welfare. But if we were in that way sort of lacking in any form of fault, then also all the other sentient beings would become exactly, we could apply the same reason exactly the same way to all of the other sentient beings. I think there's another
most of our situation that we try to bring on the table, just let's say, let's meet and then talk about the problem. Then what we cannot come to the conclusion and settle it is nobody is going to say, yes, this part I'm wrong. Yes, this part, yes, I am wrong. So then this is the key thing to come together. If the two person wants to settle a thing or the discussion or some kind of conflict, and then they say like, I'm 100% right, and he will say, I'm 100% right. And that means you're 100% wrong, and you are 100% wrong. There's nothing to be settled. That's our current problem. In the family, in the world, go everywhere. This is the problem. So that means, so in order to develop or generate the compassion towards others, first you have to learn to accept your own fault. So that means your pride, that afflicted pride, is something that will never let you move on or to generate, bring compassion to the others, because you will be like strong like this, and the other person will be strong like this. So then once you learn from through your mistake, then you see, in the past I do have this problem, and that I cannot improve my life. Now he has this problem, and he can be changed. And he need to see this afflicted pride. So then this is how hope, or when we say, because I always remember His Holiness as whenever the compassion comes into my mind, His Holiness, compassion is searching for an answer. That's what His Holiness said. This is so beautiful. This is not like a question only. Mostly our compassion is a question mark. Oh, they are suffering. How can I help them? Oh, this, if I help this, then how can I help this other person? So many. Then we call this, what's that? Burnt compassion. What? Burnt karsachik sidu. Burnout. Oh, the burnout. Right? It's not burnout. So before burning, you can put water. So it will never get burned. Because that compassion, the genuine, the real compassion, has an answer to the question. So then it is a very strong pride. Here comes the pride. The strong compassion holder, he has the special pride. So this is what we need. So like His Holiness put it together very nicely, said like, when we talk about world peace, everybody talking about it, but nobody is doing anything. So what he put it like, if you really wanted to bring a peace in the world, then you really need to solve your own problem first. Then once you see this hope, then you have this answer, then you can go on and then tell other people, do this way, this is the correct. And there's this pride and confidence. That brings a confidence. Even somebody says, no, I would forget about, don't do it, it's too much. You will know when it's too much or not. So I always remember this when I say about compassion. So this is such a great gift from His Holiness. So so when and then when you look at your guru, and this is the praise. You praise it, and then you look into yourself whether you have the same quality. 59.
Whoever seizes self-confidence in order to conquer the enemy of self-importance, they are the self-confident ones, the victorious heroes. And in addition, whoever definitely conquers that spread of this enemy, self-importance, completely wins the fruit of a conqueror, fulfilling the wishes of the world.
요즘 어제 청와대니 년부 top 체외스 따디 하이라이트 최고들 년부 top 친구 체외스 어제 진시 차와다 아니 달레 나버 기베스 빠우연티니 인디스 관계 지나 공시 네 this is good music 강시 same king 기
So then asked, and the answer is, since those that hold the pride that is the antidote in order to conquer the enemy of the afflictions possess a strong counter-positive force, they are called proud. Those that are heroes because they were victorious against the enemy are also like that. Why? Because upon having definitely destroyed from the root the rampage of the enemy of pride, they complete the temporary and ultimate result of a conqueror. And it reads, sorry, I'll read the last bit. Being enlightened is against the enemy. That's the complete commentary.
The most important in here it's whenever this negative cause and effect, cause and condition. The beauty is to become a Buddha or Bodhisattva or Arhat. The condition we cannot stop. The condition is something that it's will be always there. Let's put it like this. But now the cause is something like how you wanted to see, how you wanted to react. So this is the most important.
The substantial cause, the kind of primary cause.
The primary cause. 제 생각은 저기 our hope and what we say when we talk about three scopes, then His Holiness will always say, now second scope, on the second scope, this really gives us the hope, not the first scope, the second scope. The second scope, why it is beautiful. This is so-called, like His Holiness says, this is where this speciality of the Buddhism comes from. This part is it talks about not only the
not just in reducing the negative emotions to a certain amount.
Oh wait, they're back there. Okay.
The potential of the mental afflictions is not only just reduced to some extent.
Okay, Raphael can hear us for sure. He's moving.
He's moving.
Tia, I don't know.
She said
Yes,
yes.
okay. Nyomong nuba chung tama zama yinba. Nyomong le ya nyembu ten. Nyomong le nyembu ten. Nyomong nyembu ten dan de kares. Nyomong korang ngungun jinjin keba de le ya. Manifest shekyo de le ya nyembu ten keje me che. Nyomong gu zawa la ya. Nyomong gu zawa la ya. Ani ma meba swet. Kapshi chik duwa. Jibu chung kapsu nyomong 지금 뭔가 진진께 되버들이야 지금 만용을 당해 손으로 마도 요몬 자원이 매버서야기 계제대 뒤돌리기요 요몬 자원이 매버서야지 사변 좀 써야 된다 자원이 매버서야 디라와디 러브어 봐 제장가 어디 제장가 가란 주기 단다 더디리도 좀 아기 영화기는 아주 문에 다 단다 청세지도 아주 겨워라 겨워 도지 창다 청세
이제
안다 단다 딜이야 년병 아지 청식도 디 지그디 단다 준주 치고란 나로야 준주 치고란 나로야 다가란도가 아디 아제 창 간시 아제 달리 계시 아제 창세디 어디 창세디 딜이 내봐 디기 딜을 내봐 디기 연된도 여봐 가래 연된 여봐 쓰도 선배 아제 규모들이야 네게 아제 규모들 가르제 그봐 당선 되지
알리기
규모들이 당 아제 규모들이야 년부 자년디 아제기 진당 오수제로 담에도 싫어들 온 담에도 별로 되게 딜이야 창대 여자 아니 맞지 창 쓰라고도 양주 저가 드리다 대체도 전배디 저장가랑 좀 컨텐츠 개조를 채우는 전배리 라마다 상계의 제주 심벌줄이야 대봐 그레이스 채우고 뒤하고 싶을 봐 안 딜리지 당하려는 아나 아니 쇼건조 온수 겸전도 집에 토하네 아니 겹숨도 때문에 조단직도 해야 되나
so and so here in the so why do we talk about this in relation to the into the middle scope of a practitioner rather than the lower scope, because what we're talking about here is a sort of way of providing an antidote, not just in the reducing the kind of potentiality of the mental afflictions, so that they're in a kind of they're temporarily don't manifest, but we're not talking about that's something which it happens in the practices related to the being of the smaller scope, where they're able to temporarily kind of reduce the manifestation and power of the mental afflictions, but it's only when we get really to the level of practice described for the practitioners of the middle scope, that there we see how it's not just reducing temporarily reducing the mental afflictions, but it's cutting them away from their root. So in the same way that we would, it's destroying them from the very root, taking out and destroying the seed, which allows which then acts as a cause for those mental afflictions to arise. And so in the text, and so that's a practice related to a being who's practicing on the practices of the middle scope. And we in the first line of verse 59, where it says, those who have the pride to conquer the enemy of pride, or to train, or to kind of overcome or train the pride. It's the chang that comes from Dorji Chang, the Vajradhara, but in this context, it's being used in a sense to be able to,
never
chomba,
never yeah, so sort of abiding in those practices, yes, but having those practices within them, which and what are those practices? Abiding in those practices, having those practices within them, possessing those practices, possessing that practice. And what are we talking about there? We're talking about we're talking about, then going backwards, we're talking about pride arising from the self-grasping. And so then the only thing we're talking about, the practice as being the antidote to the underlying cause of pride, which is the self-grasping. So then you have this direct opposite, the direct counteractive mind, which has a completely opposite mode of apprehension, which is the selflessness, which is the wisdom of selflessness, which counteracts the self-grasping. And so when we also praise in our daily practices and prayers, when we praise, we take refuge and praise the gurus and the Buddhas. What we also should to bear in mind in relation to that is particularly the jewel of the within the three jewels, the jewel of the Dharma, and that the jewel of the Dharma being the real refuge, which would an aspect of which would be the wisdom of selflessness, which counteracts the self-grasping, which then removes from the root our pride. So when it says in the first verse of, sorry, that's the wrong translation. I've been using so it says in Stephen Batchelor's translation, whoever seizes self-confidence in order to conquer the enemy of self-importance. So then that would be the person who possesses that wisdom, understanding selflessness to counteract the self-grasping, is the person who would have the self-confidence which conquers conquers the enemy of self-importance, or in this afflicted pride. Tibetan word nga gel, then nga is like me, gel is the victory. But in English, I think this is missing.
Yeah,
Pride, like you only just go like me, like this. But Tibetan, that gel, it really suits now here when saying, when you have this antidote, and then you feel like I can overcome and I can bring this victory. That gel really comes together.
I can conquer. Yeah,
I can conquer. So now real pride should always have this. I can do it. What you can do it? Bring suffering more? No. You can help. You can bring the light. You can conquer other people's heart by giving them the right antidote. So they once can bring the victory. So that is the real pride, what this is saying. Okay. So we stop here today. Thank you, everyone, and let's do the dedication.
Having thoroughly investigated and accord with all that I've heard day and night through the four reasonings, mind born of reflection on these topics of contemplation, may this discernment sever all doubts. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chandras, intense and Getso, please remain until samsara ends. In all my lives, never separated from perfect gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing the qualities of the grounds and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. I fully dedicate all these virtues to be able to train just like the hero Manjushri who knows reality, and just like Samantabhadra as well. I fully dedicate all my roots of virtue where the dedication praises the best, by all the gone beyond victorious ones of the 3 times in order to have good conduct. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rinpoche.